Welcome to Culture Screen, where we analyze culture. In this episode, we are summarizing the second episode of Season 1 of The Wire titled The Detail. It was written by David Simon and directed by Clark Johnson. The Detail first aired on June 2nd, 2002. In the beginning, we see McNulty and Bunk are investigating the William Gant murder. McNulty suspects that Gant was murdered by the Barksdale organization for serving as a witness against Avon's cousin, D'Angelo Barksdale. Bunk is of course hesitant and wants to investigate further. They both go to the medical examiner, Randall Frazier, to inspect the body. In another scene, we see Lieutenant Daniels, Detective Santangelo, Carver, Greggs, and Hulk come together to meet in the courthouse. Moments later, McNulty is speaking to Judge Fallon when he tells him that the state's witness, William Gant, from a prior case, was in fact murdered by the Barksdale organization, specifically because he provided testimony against a member of the Barksdale organization. Judge Fallon passes this information to Deputy of Operations Irvin Burrell. Judge Fallon has Burrell expand the investigation into the Barksdale organization. Fallon also tells McNulty to pass on the information to the Baltimore Sun, but McNulty thinks this would just alert the Barksdale organization of their upcoming investigation. Lieutenant Daniels and McNulty are later joined by detectives Polk, Freeman, Perez, and Mahone. During their first encounter, Perez shoots at a wall by mistake while he's showing off the light trigger on his service weapon. Upon questioning, Daniels and McNulty realize that these assigned detectives are essentially the rejects from other departments. Perez himself was bounced from 2 departments prior to arriving on this detail with McNulty. When Lieutenant Daniels goes to complain to the Assistant State's Attorney, Perlman, about the detectives he was assigned for the case, Perlman tells Daniels that this is essentially a warning from the higher administration that they must conduct a quick investigation. Essentially, the higher-ups don't want them ruffling too many feathers, so they receive workers that are not effective at what they are tasked to do. Daniels asks Perlman if she can reach out to her chief for additional support. However, she tells Daniels that this will not help him at all, but she will try regardless. When Bunk and McNulty arrive at the pit, they ask D'Angelo about the state's witness who was murdered, William Gant. Bodie jumps in and tells McNulty and Bunk that state's witnesses are eventually always murdered regardless. When Stringer Bell and Weebay arrive at the pit, they see D'Angelo getting arrested and drive away immediately. Bunk writes down the license plate numbers, and we see Detective Greggs, of course, is upset at this because she was leading a surveillance team on this same group. Now that McNulty has arrested D'Angelo, it makes the scene hot for the surveillance team watching from up above. Greggs contacts Lieutenant Daniels to complain of McNulty arresting her main surveillance target. Remember, I am summarizing the entire series, so subscribe and click on the notification bell so you are reminded when I upload the next episode. I will be reviewing other TV shows and movies in the future as well, so let me know what other TV series or movie you would like me to summarize below. Stay tuned. When Lieutenant Daniels goes to complain about Detective Perez's misfire in the basement, Lieutenant Cantrell reveals to Daniels that Perez was not fired in the past because he is the son-in-law of District Commander Valchek, who is protecting his career. As a way of supporting him, Cantrell recommends Daniels take his best worker, Detective Sidnor. When Irvin Burrell meets with Major Rawls, Major Forster, and Lieutenant Daniels to discuss the murder of William Gant, only Lieutenant Daniels believes that Gant was murdered for being a state's witness during the D'Angelo Barksdale case. Rawls suggests that they punish McNulty for going behind their back and going straight to Judge Fallon with this information. Irvin Burrell tells Rawls that he would love to, but this would only cause Judge Fallon to run the story by the press. As a way of keeping this investigation under control and away from garnering media attention, they all agree to press onward with their investigation as it is. Once Daniels gets back to the homicide unit, he goes straight to McNulty and scolds him for skipping the chain of command yet again by arresting D'Angelo while Detective Greggs was in the middle of surveilling him with her crew. Daniels commands McNulty to include Greggs in the interrogation of D'Angelo and to keep Greggs in the loop of any other activity pertaining to the Barksdale investigation going forward. During the interrogation, McNulty, Greggs, and Bunk use D'Angelo's sense of guilt against him. They take a few pictures of Bunk's children to convince D'Angelo that William Gant left behind a family of 3 children. They ask D'Angelo to write a letter where he expresses his condolences to Gant's family. As he is writing the letter, lawyer Maurice Levy, who represents the Barksdale organization and many other criminals, scolds D'Angelo for speaking to the police. This letter is later dismissed by Daniels, who sees it as invaluable. When Lieutenant Daniels meets up with his crew of detectives, he assigns roles for each pair. Detectives Carver, Greggs, Sidner, and Herrick will work on finding and arresting drug dealers. Mahone and Polk will work on individual leads, and McNulty and Santangelo will look into the open homicide cases they currently have, while Prez and Freeman will perform clerical duties back at the office. Later on, we also see Avon Barksdale is hosting a community event at a church. Here, D'Angelo arrives with his girlfriend Donnette and his son. This is where we see Avon scold D'Angelo for speaking to the police, and especially for writing a letter and giving it to the police. Back at the office, we see Detective Greggs is working with Bubbles to label each of the photos they took at the Franklin Terrace. They put the photos up on a bulletin board and label each of them with the appropriate names. Bubbles is helping the detectives for free because of how viciously the Barksdale gang beat his friend Johnny. McNulty gives Bubbles $20 regardless as a way of saying thank you. One night at Franklin Terrace, Detective Prez hits a kid with his service weapon in the face, and later, the child's mother files a police brutality charge against the police department with the Internal Investigations Division. Daniels instructs the team to rehearse their story, so they all agree that the child actually struck the officer and Prez acted in self-defense. The next day, McNulty is contacted by Bunk, who tells him that William Gant is on the front page of The Sun as being a murdered state's witness. When McNulty contacts Judge Felon tells McNulty that he never told The Sun to print that story, he merely gave them a quote. Lieutenant Daniels' wife criticizes him for protecting Prez and the other officers underneath him. Mrs. Daniels warns him that the detail he is in charge of is unfortunately not going to end well. In the end of this episode, as the sun sets, we see the dealers dealing drugs and McNulty drinking alcohol. Lieutenant Daniels is informed that the young boy Prez hit in the face will now be blinded in one eye forever. This was episode 2, titled The Detail. To watch the next or previous episode summary, click on the correct link in the description or at the end of this video.
I don't know, but you can't lose if you don't play.
We upload new videos every week, so subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. Click the notification bell to be notified of when we upload these videos. See you on the next episode of Culture Screen.